Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. Our guest for today is Derric Gobourne Jr. He is a dancer, he is a musician, and above all else, he is a true performer. We had a really wonderful conversation about how his family got him started with music, how he has continued to evolve and shape his career based on the community that he wants to build and the sound that he wants to create, which is called Neo Jack Swing. He is an inspiration, he is so energetic, and he also loves Barney. And if you listen to the episode, you'll find out why. I so enjoyed our conversation. I hope that you do too. So without further ado, here is my time that I spent with Derric. Derric, such a pleasure to meet you. And there's a semi-obvious place for me to start, which is, can you tell me about Barney and why he is hanging out with you today? Because he's big and purple and he's right there.
Barney is my best friend. I'm about to say I think, but I know there's an actual statistic. About 70% of adults have some sort of comfort item from their childhood. And I guess this is mine. He also represents everything that I love about what I do, which is music and children and love. And it's pretty plain and simple, so I really resonate with this character in particular.
Oh, that's awesome. Those tenets you mentioned of performance and children and love, like, do you feel like that was something that was in your heart and your soul, like from the jump? Or do you feel like you sort of discovered that over time?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. I think that everybody is born inherently good, whatever good is. But I think that we all have these positive attributes and we are fresh, blank sheets of paper. And I think that I always had that in me. I think that my inspirations, like a Barney or a Michael Jackson, these are the people who I watched all the time, and I think that all my role models were about the same type of things. Were about music, was about love, was just about children. So I think the people who I watched and my role models, even in real life, are really what shaped me to be the human being, which kind of carried over into the music.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, like Michael Jackson was such an incredible talent. There's so many things you might have been drawn to, but like when you remember watching him when you were younger, like what about his performances really drew in your attention?
So the first time I saw Michael Jackson, I had already heard his music. And my dad is a huge Michael Jackson fan. He's a big Michael Jackson impersonator when he was younger, born in the 80s or born in the 70s. So, of course, Michael Jackson was his hero. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, he would play Michael Jackson all the time. But I had never seen him. And so I went to the Boys and Girls Club when I was younger. And they would do these things after, it's time for your parents to come pick you up. If your parents are not there, you would maybe watch a movie. And they played The Wiz one day. And I saw the Scarecrow and was like, I don't know who that is, but everything he's doing is really great. And I want to be just like that. And I told my dad about it. He was like, oh, yeah, that's Michael Jackson. I was like, that's him. Got it. In love, obsessed. And so I became, of course, obsessed with Michael. And that became my thing.
Did you also become a Michael Jackson impersonator?
Oh, yeah. That's how I got my start in performing. Immediately, I was like, I want to dance. I want to dance. I want to dance. And my mom put me in any and everything that she could put me in.
That's awesome. So your dad was a huge music fan. He was a big Michael Jackson fan. What were your mom influences? What was her relationship to music and dance and performance?
As I get older, I realized that it was more than what I thought, because my dad is more overtly like a musical person. But my mom, she didn't let us listen to anything but gospel music, which is a big influence on what I do production-wise. And she always had at the church either step team or dance team or something that would get us moving or something that had us participate. We were always in the choir. And so she was very big in my growth as a young artist, more than what I remembered as a younger person. And as I got older, I'm like, oh, this really helped me out.
Hmm. I'm curious, as you look back, do you feel like you were pushing to be an artist and your parents were supporting you, or do you feel like your parents were sort of pulling you through these steps and you sort of like absorbed the artistry along the way?
I think it was both to an extent. Uh, when it was dancing, um, I think my mom really wanted us to be successful in whatever we wanted to do, and I think she wanted us to be well rounded. I have three siblings, and we all did something different, but she really wanted us to be out of the streets because of where we lived. And people say we were sheltered, and I like, okay, that might be true, but I think my mom was just very particular about her children. So anything we wanted to do, she pretty much sacrificed to make sure that we did it. Um, and I guess like anything, like anybody, if you're around something, it's like a diet. If you only eat corn, corn is only going to come out. So whatever you put in is whatever you put out. I think as I got older and moved from just I want to be a dancer to I want to make music, I want to sing, and I wasn't a trained singer. I wasn't born. That wasn't my gift at the time. Excuse me, but I think more people than none were like, you should just stick to dancing. That's what you do. But I always knew since I was like 5, I was like, that's my goal. And I knew that was what I was meant to do. I think my dad was more of the one that was like, it doesn't really matter what you do, you just need to work hard. And my sister really was the only one that was like, you're gonna be a singer, and I'm gonna know all your songs, and you're gonna be famous. And she really is the one that pushed me. So
Really cool. Of your other siblings, do any of the other ones sing, dance, do art, or are they more traditionally oriented?
we all have that gift. We all can dance. Uh, we all can sing. I just am the one who is like, I'm going to make a career out of it. My younger sister is a gymnast at Auburn University. Um, she also just signed a deal with WWE, so that might be something. Uh, and then my older sister, she's an entrepreneur, dancer as well. And my older brother, I think he got into nursing and physical therapy. So we all have our little thing that we do. But when we get together, it's always a musical thing. Like that's how we bond.
Yeah, I bet y'all are a good time at a wedding.
Absolutely. At any event, any party, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to ask, like, can you recall any stories or any times when your whole family just like became the party or really took over a party?
Mm. Couple times when my sister comes down um, from Auburn, and she's old enough to go to the club now, so maybe we'll take the whole family out to Ybor, and we're always lit everywhere. If there's music, then we're there. Especially if we're around each other, we feed off of each other. So there's that. We used to go to these dances at the Boys and Girls Club, and we were so enthralled by anything that had choreography. We really liked Grease. Me and my younger sister were really obsessed with Grease, so we would do all the choreography from Grease to all these weird rap songs. It's only weird because you're doing the choreography to Grease to like Shoulder Lean, and it's very very. But everybody would be like, "What are y'all doing?" But it would draw crowds and whatnot. I feel like I still am like that in some way. Like if I go out, I don't normally go out, but when I do, I'm gonna have fun because I rarely do. So
Yeah. At the risk of jumping the gun, is that like where the seeds of Neo Jack Soul started to get planted? Like those old dances and that rap sound, or like is that just a completely different thing?
um I would say more so I think planting the seed of Neo Jack swing for me would
Swing,
be.
sorry.
It's all good. Are you from Sarasota?
No, so I grew up outside New York City. I now live in Colorado.
Ah,
Although funny, you said Ybor, which is not too far from Tampa, right?
right. It's pretty much
Okay.
the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the Tampa Bay area had a radio station called WSJT. It was smooth jazz, 94.1, and they would play these songs like "Night and Day" by Albie Shore, "All Around the World" by Lisa Stansfield, and I was like, I like that warmth, and I like how that makes me feel. I don't have a name to put to this sound, but I like how this makes me feel. And then, of course, being a big Michael Jackson fan, when I bought the Dangerous album, I remember that was such a big thing for me to get from Walmart because I had no knowledge of it. I was like, oh my gosh, I really want this album. Pressing number one, and Jam comes on, and I'm like, wow, these sounds are ridiculous. Just the whole album. And I'm a student of music. If I like something, I obsess over it. So I'm like, now I'm gonna find everything I can about this thing. And so I researched this whole album, found out that it's the sound is called New Jack Swing. Okay, Teddy Riley created it. Okay, and so that was just a part of me, and a part of my taste for so long that when I got to like 10th grade and I wanted to really take music seriously, and I was like, what's going to set me apart? I was like, I already got this high top fade. I already dressed kind of 90s like. It really was a let's try it and see type of thing. That's what it was. And it took off.
That's so cool. You said, so it's in 10th grade, you said you wanted to start taking music seriously. Was
Mm-hmm.
there like a moment or a day, or was it just kind of like at some point in that year, a switch flipped?
I guess it was just some point in that year. I've been writing songs every day since like second grade. That's what I would literally draw these fake album covers and draw the back covers and be like, these are the songs, and then I have to write these songs out now, and so I remember in eighth grade I would write a lot of poetry, a lot of poetry. And that's when I started really learning about production and recording. And in ninth grade, that is all I did was write songs. I actually had very bad grades because I was focused on writing. We were learning the thing. I'm like, this song, I have a song and I need to write it. And so I guess in 10th grade, I was just like, okay, well, I know I can do it. I was a backup dancer during that time. And my friend Chris Eisenberg, I was like, if this is all it takes, then I can do this. I know I can do this. And so I guess that's when I really got serious. It was like, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. And so sometime around that time.
And now you're doing it.
Yeah.
What were you backup dancing for, or who were you backup dancing for? I guess I should ask.
This guy named Chris Eisenberg, he had just recently signed a deal to RCA with this group called Next Sound Down. I just knew him from the community, and he had just put this post on Facebook one day and was like, hey, I'm looking for backup dancers. And my mom was like, you're going to audition? I was like, okay. And we opened up for people like Mindless Behavior and Jacob Lattimore and all these kind of different people. And it really showed me a lot about the business because his manager at the time is now my engineer and my mentor. So we learned a lot about branding, a lot about professionalism, just a lot about the business and what to expect, a lot about touring. We used to tour a lot. So I learned most of my stuff from being a backup dancer.
That's such a fascinating path. And was there anything between backup dancer and like full blown artist? Were there other steps, or was like you did that, learned a bunch, and then you're like, I can do this? Boop.
I think as we got older, because we were his dancers from the time I was like 13 to maybe around 16. And I think as we got older and as he got closer to his deal, you know, I started recording and dropping little songs and doing music videos and stuff on my own. And I think that they understood that and even the other dancers started doing stuff on their own and getting gigs and stuff on their own. And I think they understood that that was the next step, was people are about to disperse. And I knew it was happening because they started bringing in young dancers for us to teach them the steps. And I think our last show, we went to LA and we performed at Disney and we performed at Universal. And it was kind of the feeling of like, we know this is going to be our last one, because they went all out on buying special costumes, and we just did all this special stuff. And it was like, we want to make sure that this last one is really good for y'all, because we know that y'all are becoming adults, young adults, and want to do your own thing. So,
what makes a great backup dancer?
Understanding how to support. If I look back in my mind right now, I'm saying to myself that I wasn't a good backup dancer because I don't have a backup personality, but I actually was, and I think I brought a lot to that group of dancers in particular, and just the performance of that show and overall. I can remember one of the shows we did in Tampa, just right before the Modest Behavior show, and the manager brought in one of his brothers. He does music as well, and he's trying to figure out what we can do to enhance our show. And we're all watching these videos that we had done, and they're pointing at me, and he goes, "You see what he's doing? You see what he's doing with his face? I need everybody to be doing that exact same thing. Know how to support the artist, and knowing that you're there for their vision, and it's not really about you." And just doing the best job you can. I think removing yourself from the situation and in any ensemble or backup role is really the smartest thing. This is the best thing for your mental health, because you don't want to get too involved with something that's not even yours, because you can get replaced easily. You're a backup dancer. That's the star. So,
yeah. When you were performing as a backup dancer, how much of what you were doing on stage was like the specific choreography, and then how much of it is like you ad-libbing, reading the energy, seeing what's happening with the other dancers and the artists? Like, what's the balance between like this is all scripted, or like, nah, I'm doing my own thing?
whatever they tell me the balance was.
Yeah.
It really was. It was very heavily choreographed. It was like, these are these points. If there is a freestyle, we're going to choreograph it in there, so you know that you have this much amount of time to freestyle. They really liked when we only could take 2 dancers. I said 3, but I'm in my hands, but I'm counting the singer. When we can only take 2 dancers, they really like to take the boys, because they liked how we all bonded. They made us all go to each other's houses, stay the night, so we could have chemistry, and it would come across on stage. And it actually really worked. And so when there were moments where they're like, "We want y'all to look like you guys are friends. We want y'all to get together," and those are the moments where we're like, okay, but very, very particular, very particular.
Were there any tips or tricks you learned through all your rehearsals about how to get more comfortable in choreography, or learn your steps? I think a lot of people would say faster, but maybe faster isn't the right metric. Maybe it's just like in a more embodied way, or in a way that better suits you as a performer.
I was one of those dancers that I did not have an issue with choreography. I came in there already. I had taken ballet since 3rd grade, and was still doing ballet at that time, and was in a whole bunch of dance classes. And the way I learned choreography anyways was from video. I would watch YouTube videos over and over and over again until I learned the choreography. So it was much easier to have somebody in front of me telling me, this is exactly what you're going to do. I think what helps me with that is confidence and understanding that there is time. I think dancers in particular, want to have things perfect the first time, and I understand that. But knowing that I have time to perfect this and I really just want to make this feel good in my body so I remember it and going full out, that's my thing. I go full out and everything 100%. And so I get that cardio and I get that muscle memory. And so, yeah.
No, I feel like that's a brilliant little gem. Like the harder you push yourself, the more you can actually feel it in your body versus like going through the motions to kind of find the feel. But if it doesn't feel the way it's going to feel when you're performing,
Absolutely.
you're not actually learning the feel of it.
And that's what I preach to my dancers all the time. I'm like, we don't have the time to really mess around because how you look in rehearsal is exactly how you're going to look on stage. Adrenaline is not going to give you extra cardio. You're just, because when you stop, which there are major stops in my show where we just pause and we hold it for dramatic effect, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel tired, and nobody likes to feel left behind. And I know specifically when I was a backup dancer, there were moments where the manager would tell me, he said, you cannot hold back. Everybody has to come up to your level, and you can never let anybody tell you to hold back. And so I never hold back. And my dancers have to be at least on the same level as me. And I'm, again, because I do this all the time, explosive. But that comes from always doing it. It's not about doing it in the moment.
This is such a fun like flip. So now as like the teacher, as the person who is like teaching the choreography and leading, like what are some of the ways, or what are is there a story of a time you were able to really connect to someone and help them change the way they were approaching rehearsal or connect to a dance in a different way?
Ooh, I am a pretty hard director when it comes to my stuff, and I'm very particular. And if you're not ready for that kind of work and that kind of leadership, then it can be pretty hard. I mean, if I did, I wouldn't know because they don't really tell me. But I tend to sit my dancers down and try to motivate them and be like, hey, we have to take ourselves out of this conclusion. I mean, I really don't care about how you're feeling right now in this moment, as bad as that sounds, because it's not about what you're feeling. It's not about what I'm feeling. There are 200 people or how many people who bought tickets and that need us. We can change their whole trajectory of their day, of their month, of their year. I was taking a walk the other day and this lady stopped me and she was crying and she was telling me how much I mean to her when she sees me on stage and how joyous I am and how that brings joy to her. And understanding that dynamic, being like, let's take ourselves away from this situation. Whether you're mad at me or not in this moment, people out in them seats need us. So let's do this for them and for whoever needs it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now I'm curious, like, so you're making music. I want to hear all about your new album. And I'm curious, like, how much, like, when you're writing songs, are you already thinking about the dance? Are you already thinking about the choreography? Like, are you co-creating? Or is it like, nope, I make the music, I produce it, I put it out, and then I start to work on like the visual aspect of it?
I believe in my first album, my debut album, Supremacy, the only reason I created that music was because I was like, I'm an artist. I'm doing this genre that's pretty dated at this point. Its heyday was between the late 80s and the early 90s. So at this point, if I want to be taken seriously, I need something to perform, and it has to be more than covers. I need original stuff. So I created the music in mind that this is going to be the intro. We're going to dance right here. There needs to be a dance break. We're dance right here. And that was really a lot of the first album. And I think the second album I was like, I'm not going to create anything that I don't feel. I'm not going to create songs just to create songs. I have content now. I have things to perform. And if I don't feel this song, I'm not going to sit there and force something out. Um, and I think, to me, this music is a little better to me because it came from a more sincere place and a more honest place. Um, and it was, I guess, with more love. And yeah. So now I'm really like, I'm just going to create these songs, and I don't never know which one is going to be the single or a single, or but when I figure out this is the song that we're going to do, I typically like, okay, what is the video? What is the visual? And that helps me create the choreography and the world around that song.
Mm. Super interesting. So, have you ever performed your music without dancing as a component of it?
Mm, no. I was trying to think. I was trying to think, but that is my, I don't want to say gimmick, but it is a part of what I do. I was reading this book about Michael Jackson, and as he got older, they wanted him to do this stripped down version of a Las Vegas show of his stripped down songs. And he was like, nobody is going to want to come see Michael Jackson do a stripped down version of Billie Jean without him doing the moonwalk, or Smooth Criminal without the jacket and the hat and the lean. And he's like, don't nobody want to see that. And I feel like that is a part of what I do. It's as much as I would like to say I give great audio, most of my stuff is visual. That's what really grabs people. My show is very theatric and big. The clothes are very bright and very exaggerated. There's a lot of dancing. It's very explosive. And so I have to keep that in mind when I go do um, a show. And then I don't even feel comfortable if I'm not moving. If I'm just standing there singing, I don't feel as comfortable.
Hmm. Yeah. What was it like building a show around your own music for the first time? Like,
Mm.
did you have a mentor, or were you just kind of like, I don't know, we'll figure this shit out as we go? Like,
I think at that point, because my where I am right now is actually at my home theater. I do theater as well, and so my mentor is the founder and director of West Coast Black Theater Troupe. And my first show here was an artist showcase. They give artist showcase. They give them a night or two nights if you sell out your night to do whatever you want. And I had heard plenty of stories and just tips and whatnot for a full 6-7 years before I even got my own artist showcase. And at that point, I had known this theater so well, and I knew everything that it could do and knew what I wanted to do, that I already knew what I was going to do. And I think that my mentor understood that, and there was not really a lot of involvement from him. He came in at the last rehearsals and just was really shocked and amazed. Um, I think for me, my goal was to not put too much of myself into the show. Um, Living in Sarasota, our audience is pretty much older, conservative white people. That is the audience of the art. Uh, and I really wanted to make sure that I gave people myself, but also something that they could go away with, right? So if you give people something that they like, they'll be a little bit more willing to listen to what you like. So first act was all stuff that they would like. A lot of funk stuff, a lot of Motown stuff, and James Brown and Prince and Michael Jackson. And then the second act, we really got into the story of me and the stuff that I like and how I become the performer that I am, and then my music. And so then we like this. This is groovy. So Yeah.
Give them something familiar so you can give them something new.
Yep. Yep.
Got it. Oh, that's so interesting. So like that's one way to think about like the arc of a show, right? Like I'm going to start you with something then I'm going to introduce some new elements, and then I'm going to take you into my story so that I earn your trust, and then I bring you over here. So like that's one of the emotional arcs, right? Another arc that I think about a lot for my own performances is like energy. Because I think something I see a lot of performers do is they just try to go to like an 11 out of 10 the whole time. And for the first two songs, it's great and everyone's really into it. And then at some point, you're like, I cannot be at an 11 anymore. Like, I need a break. But they just keep asking for more energy, more energy, more energy. So for your shows, like, how do you think about managing the energy of an audience so that they stay with you the whole time?
The same way I think about albums. I think of albums and shows together as a whole world, and that in life, you have dynamics. Your emotions go like this. They move like this. The way you feel from day to day goes like this. Your energy goes like this. And that's what people want. Especially, I'm not going to ask an older audience to be at 1,000% with me for 2.5 hours. That just doesn't make sense. And yeah. So what I do, I'm like, okay, I know that I got to come in hot. I got to grab attention. And while we're up here, we might as well keep you up here. But at some point, all right, let's like the beginning of my show starts from we open with this big number by Cameo called Nights by Night. Then we'll go into a Jackie Wilson medley. And then I go into my James Brown medley and I slow it down a little bit and give them Please, Please, Please by James Brown, which is still slow enough to like we're cooled down, but still dynamic enough to where we're like, oh, this is so much energy. And I think that's something that people like about my show in particular, that there's always something going, even in the moments where we are slowing down and we're cooling off. There's always something that gets your blood going, gets your body moving.
Yeah.
It's exciting, always exciting, and always explosive and dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to another rapper, and he was saying that a problem he has in his shows is he has a song that's like, it's really insightful, it's really lyrical, like, and he's saying something very powerful, but it's a lower energy. And he's working on figuring out, like, I have party songs, I have bangers, but I don't know how to take people from that energy and then move them into that quieter place. Like,
it's all about placement, really. It really is all about placement and where you, again, like you said, gaining their trust so that they will listen. I think the slowest song in my show in particular that we have is called Childhood. It's a Michael Jackson song. It's very ballady, and it's pretty much speaks on his childhood, and I relate a lot. So at that point, we have already gotten to all the party stuff. And even with me telling you my story, we still get a little groove, we still get a little party. And I don't just go straight from here to here. It's like we get party, we get a little bit cooler, and okay, now there's a story. But also, visuals help tell the story. If these are random people who don't know you, then they're not going to care anyways. What does your story have to do with anything? We came here to turn up. We don't really care. But if it's your fans and your followers, it is there's a way to do it. It's all about placement and timing and the perfect place to put it in the show, which is a lot I learned at this theater.
Do you feel like at this point, like within your shows, how many people know you or coming to see you are your fans, and how many people are new?
Depends where I perform at. If it's a logo showcase around here, which I typically try not to do too much of those, a good majority of those people they know me. They're not there for me. They're there for their friends or for themselves as artists. which is why I typically don't try to do those things. But if I am going to do a show now, it is going to be my show, and I'm going to put it on because of me. Um, and so typically the people who come are my fans, my followers. If it's a situation where we're performing outside somewhere like the bazaar and there happens to be people there, then they're new people, which we turn them into followers as well. But typically it's people knowing they're coming to see me.
Mm. Do you have any tips or suggestions for performing outside to grab the attention of people walking by?
Engagement, I guess. I'm very, I know where I'm at all the time. When I'm performing. So I'm just am very alert and I'm looking at everything while I'm performing. So sometimes I might break out in a song where I'm supposed to be dancing or there's a break in the song. I'm like, hey, what you got over there? You got a cheeseburger? That look real good. Where you get that from? Okay. I'll go get one when I'm done. And just engaging with people as they pass by or as they're there. I guess that is the perfect way to pull in people.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I also just wanted to gut check. Did I hear you say your show is 2.5 hours?
Depends on who lets me perform it. But pretty much, a lot of times when I do it at this theater, they really are big on like 90 minutes, 90 minutes, 90 minutes. But we have a full 2.5 hour show. So depending on where we go, we can cut it down to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. But in its entirety, the show is about 2.5 hours.
Amazing. And like, who all makes up the ensemble? Like, who are all the people in the show?
So, my dancers pretty much stay the same. The Thrill, which is two of my dancers who started out with me since the beginning, which is my brothers Dell and Terrell. They are the Thrill. But the whole New Jack Nation, I have four dancers: Dell, Terrell, Amaris, and wow, Marisol. Her name just was skipping my mind. Um, and then my cousin Amber, um, and my best friend Ariel. Um, and so that is that show, and it changes depending on what I'm asked to do and where I'm at. If I can take two people, if they want that full show and if they want to pay for that full production, sometimes I go do the production by myself. Sometimes I just do it with the four dancers. Sometimes I do it with just two dancers. But in its entirety, that big production, that shine is those people.
And are you performing over backing tracks, or do you have any live band?
So I did a version of this show before. I had a live band and was not entirely happy with how it turned out. And so what I did was just take those live tracks and created some new live tracks for the stuff I did, and went on websites like Fiverr. And if I needed a live drum or needed a live guitar, I would ask them to play live drums or live. But any other thing else, I just created live tracks for that.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I have so many questions.
So yeah.
So you've been performing for a long time. You've performed in the front, you performed in the back, you've done 2.5 hours, you've done 20 minutes, you've been inside, you've been outside. Like, what makes a show, I guess, okay, this is two completely separate questions. For you as an artist, when do you feel great about a show? What needs to happen for you to walk away being like, that was amazing?
That's so good. It usually takes me a day to really remember what happened, because most of the times I will step outside of myself during the show. I'll see the audience and I'm like, now's an out of body experience. And people will be like, do you remember? Or how are you feeling? And I'm like, I don't remember. I wasn't there. But mm, I don't. That's such a good question. I think for me, most of my best shows are in front of children. The shows I
Mm,
perform for, like schools or boys and girls clubs, just because they're such an honest audience and connection. I guess that is it. If I feel like I really connected with people, um, and that's a thing that they can tell you that they connected and they like your stuff, but we're human beings and we're more than just flesh and blood. We're spirit and we can feel that. We feel that energy. So when I feel that I really connected with somebody, whether I sounded good or whether I looked good or whether I danced good, I had a good show.
mm, yeah. And then, so the other question that bubbled into my brain was like, when you go to see a show, so like, I assume you want to see that same connection. You'd like to connect with whomever's on stage. That makes sense. But like, what else do you look for? Like, what are you impressed by when you watch other people perform?
I'm not easily impressed. I'm really not. So I try not to go watch a lot of shows because I don't like to torment myself and be directing the whole time. But
Mm,
I think honesty and vulnerability, um, somebody who understands that they're in control of the audience and in control of that space, and somebody who understands how to create a world and a moment and an experience for somebody. And again, because we're human, we feel that. I mean, I think I'm really hard to impress because I don't care for talent. Like there are so many talented people that I'm just like, okay, you're talented, but I don't feel anything from you. I don't feel any genuine energy or just anything that's making me be like, wow, this is incredible. Just like,
mm,
oh, you're talented. That's cool. So is my cousin. So is their best friend. So is my teacher. So it's like, but I think that is it. It has to be more than talent. It has to be some honesty and some
mm,
vulnerability and some grit.
mm. I want to dig on a point you made because I love it and I want to better understand it. When you said, I like to see when they know they control the audience.
Mm.
Tell me more about that.
I literally just told uh, there's a young performer here that's in a show with me. He's like my little brother. He's been here for a little while since he's 8. He's 15 now. And he still has this range where they're giving him all the young Michael Jackson songs. And he did, at this gala we did at the circus a couple days ago, he did Who's Loving You. And we're doing rehearsal and he walks on stage and he does his thing. And I pulled him aside and I said, you have to know that specifically for this moment, that you are in control and that it's like teasing a dog with a piece of meat and that nothing can move on until you do what you have to do. Um, and so you don't have to rush anything. You don't have to feel like you have to be there at this type of moment. Everything is on you. So if you want to sing a note and move and just sit there and look at people for like 5 seconds, they they know that you're in control. And that's the great thing about Michael Jackson and why he was able to stand on stage for 2 minutes and do nothing but stand there and people would cry and faint and pee themselves. It was like he knew the type of energy and he knew the type of control and he knew exactly how long to do it to where it wasn't too much, but also like I know I'm this big figure. I know how big I am on this stage, even though I look small to everybody. From the back row, I look like this tiny ant, but I know that my energy is huge. And I have
Mm.
all of you right here in between these two fingers, and nothing can move until I say so. Really, really
Oh,
taking your moment.
yeah, yeah. When like confidence feels like it's not enough to describe what you're describing. Like, because you can be confident on stage, which means like, you know, your lyrics, you know, your moves, like you can perform it well. But what you're talking about, I'm hearing two things. One is what you were saying earlier, which is like energetically, I need to see you go somewhere that is beyond what I'm expecting or what I see every day. Like, I got to see you take a risk, right? And be vulnerable enough of like, be outside yourself enough that you could fall, you could fuck up, you could fail. Because now there's tension, there's excitement, there's energy. And if like, it sounds like the magic is, can you be that out of body? Can you be that energetic? Can you be that expressed and hold the attention? Someone who is like jumped off the cliff, right? Like they have taken the risk of like, I'm going to throw myself out here and perform. And I know you're watching. And I carry the confidence that I know you're watching me take this jump. So good. So good.
It's what Michael Jackson calls creating magic. You have to understand what you're doing for people and not think about it too much. Like when I go on stage, like I understand that I'm doing this for other people, but I also am like, this is just my way to express. And I owe these people this because they paid a ticket. That is the only reason that I'm able to do this at this moment. So I have to give them something without thinking too much being on stage. Like, all right, smile for somebody out there in the audience. It's like, I'm just really living in the moment. So when people stop me on the street and be like, you bring so much joy to what you do on stage. And so it brings joy to me. I just living in that moment. And that's how I feel in that moment. I feel joy.
Yeah. I have to ask, because I remember you saying earlier, so you know your audience, older, white, conservative, and that sometimes you don't necessarily want to show all of yourself. Do you ever feel tension between making sure you're presenting something to the audience that they can enjoy, but also, again, like being so connected to yourself and to that energy?
I think that's any artist. Any artist who puts music out or has any plans of being successful, who say things like, I do music for me, is a complete lie. Because if you were doing music solely for yourself, why release it? Why not just record it and keep it? What is the point of releasing it? We all have this idea of music doing for others what it does to us, right? Now, the terms of your success and the level of your success, that may differ. Whether you're okay with 5 people or 5 million people resonating with it. I think me understanding a brand, that is something since the age of 13 that this theater has pushed on us. You are a brand. I think that just really helped me understand this is Derric Gobourne Jr., the person. This is Derric Gobourne Jr., the artist, who sometimes they're the same. Everybody is a lot of things. I admire Tupac because Tupac was always Tupac all the time. And for some people, they're like, oh, he's a hypocrite or he's the true version of a Gemini. He just was honest. Like, whatever I am feeling today is what you're going to get. And I guess that I'm more on the safe side of I'm going to protect my brand and protect my image. And because there are certain things that I want to do, particularly for the world and for children, but I know that these are the steps to get there. And that's being in a space like this. And I won't say that older white conservatives are my whole audience. I know that here at home, that is the audience who are going to pay to come see me, who is going to pay to buy some merchandise. Now, when I'm on TikTok and I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, I can be a little bit more relaxed. They not really on social media like that. Be a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more fun. Or if I go to schools, boys and girls clubs, it differs from where I am.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. You just reminded me of another question I like to ask, which is like, what do you do when you have to perform on a day when you're not feeling great?
Perform.
On days when you're shut up and do it. Cool.
No, but I never. Nah, that's a lie. That's a lie. I was about to sit here and lie right to you. I was about to say I never feel like that, but typically, if I'm in a show that I really don't like, I will suck it up because again, people bought tickets, and I really since the pandemic and seeing all these people, lose their lives and quick like that. And the older I get, and the more my friends lose their lives, or more my friends and people my age, I'm more like very, very, what is the word? It's such a simple word. Grateful that I can get up and even to for me just to take a walk and to be able to move my legs. That's such I'm honored. Like a lot of people can't do this. So I try to take that on stage with me that even if I don't want to do this, the fact that I'm able to still do this is a blessing. So I'm just gonna go out there and give the higher power thanks. And this is how I give thanks. I'm gonna show you I appreciate it by giving my all to this, even if I don't really want to do it.
Oh, that's beautiful. So it's come up a bunch of times. You get excited about performing for children, teaching children, and I know you said you have some connection to Toys for Tots. So tell me all the details. I want to hear about it.
One of my big things, I'm notorious for being against corporal punishment and speaking out against child abuse and child neglect. And so most of the money that I make from musical performances, we donate to a charity that supports child abuse, not supports but fights child abuse and child neglect. And so 2 years ago, I just had this idea. I had all these instrumentals, and I was like, I want to make a Christmas album. And I was like, you know what? It could be better than just a Christmas album. It could be bigger than a Christmas album. What if I did a collaboration with Toys for Tots that every album I sell, that the money goes directly to Toys for Tots? And I'm a Toys for Tots kid. Like when my parents divorced, that was a big thing. Every Christmas, we gotta go to Toys for Tots. Tell them what you want. And so I know how it feels to be in that predicament, being like, are we gonna have Christmas this year? What are our toys gonna look like? Because that's what matters to a kid. That's all you see is commercialism and toys and stuff. That's all that matters on Christmas. Like, what am I gonna get? How is this gonna be a good Christmas? And so I was like, I really want that to be a thing. I'm gonna do a collaboration with Toys for Tots. Called up Toys for Tots Sarasota. They were on board with it. They were like, of course. And so released that album, I think in 2020, Christmas 2020, and the album reached number 6 on the R&B Soul Album charts in Japan. And thank you. And the single Jingle Bells reached number 2 in Taiwan holiday, and it's done a lot of great things. That album has 500,000 streams worldwide. Sheesh. And musically, that's one of my favorite albums that I made. It's called Oh What Fun, and it's on all streaming platforms.
Amazing. And so, like, as we come into the holiday season, are you performing a lot of stuff from that album right now?
Yes. So actually, last year I did a thing where, so this album is full of, I produced a lot of the music, but I brought in a lot of my friends to do a lot of the vocals and stuff. And so last year I started this thing. I have a writing group we call ourselves RAD, which is Raleigh, Ariel, and Derric. And we did this thing at the Bazaar called a Rad Christmas, where we did our music and then we brought in friends to do stuff from the Christmas album and other Christmas songs. And it was such a beautiful thing, and they loved it. And that's how we really built our relationship with the Bazaar. But we're in talks of doing the second annual Rad Christmas. We had an offer to do something at St. Armand's Circle, I believe. And we're looking at the date, December 2nd. I believe they're going to be lighting the Christmas tree that day. And we really going to solidify that date today. But I believe it's going to be December 2nd, either 1 to 3 or 4 to 6. But I'm excited about that. I love Christmas music.
Was Christmas like always your favorite holiday growing up?
No.
Getting that sense. No. Okay.
No.
Awesome. I love being wrong.
We didn't have good Christmases. Like it. Once my parents got divorced, my mom had 4 kids and one person, one parent income. We didn't have great Christmases, so I never really cared for the holiday because I knew I wasn't really gonna get anything, or if I did, it would be probably money during tax season and be like, "This is your Christmas present from." But as I got older, I think that the music became a thing. I like Christmas music, and I like the feeling of people are more happier and people are more willing to give during that time. But and I think now that I'm older and have my own money, I give a lot during that time, and I like that feeling. My little cousin, who I see pretty much as like my daughter, I'm excited to really give her a great Christmas this year. We try to do that every year for her, but
that's beautiful. And then your album Shine. When did that come out?
May 15th, 16th, okay. One of those days. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So, Shine really solidified what the neo jack. So neo jack swing is very different. I don't want to say it's very different, but it's just a modern version of the fresh take of the new jack swing sound created in the late 80s and early 90s. And of course, people who know prefixes know that neo means new. It's just a new version. It's our version, and it's our culture now. There is still a younger audience who loves the 90s and loves neo jack swing, loves new jack swing, and loves everything that comes with it. It's more than just music. It's the culture. It's the clothing, the hairstyles, the dancing. There's the movies. There's a whole culture around it. And so I think this album really solidified what the neo jack swing culture is. And I think that this album for me, this is when people really started calling me the king of neo jack swing, is when these singles started coming out. I think I took more musical risk on this album. I was listening to a bunch of New Jack Swing, the first album. That's all I listened to. But for this album, I was listening to the stuff like Parliament and Stevie Wonder and Take 6 and The Four Freshmen and a lot of jazz music. And so my influences were different. My reason for creating music was different. And you can tell how excited I am talking about this album. It just, because that's my baby. It's like you create a child, and for however long you create it, and now it's in the world. And now it's walking and it's talking. And to see people living with it, that my biggest fear was that my first album, people lived with it for 4 years before I gave them a new album. And so those songs became a part of their memories and a part of their summer of 2018 and all that. So will I be able to create that again? But people are really loving this album and loving how different it is. And ooh, I love it. That's my baby.
That's awesome. And from what it sounds like, you're really building a community around the sound. It's not just that you're like sort of naming this is a genre, but you're building a community of people who connect to the music and want to dance to the music and want to know about the music. And so like, was that always part of the vision, or did that just sort of start to happen organically?
Yeah, that just, I guess, happened organically. I mean, I knew that in Asia, because I do my homework, I knew that in Asia, particularly in Japan and Korea, that because of the culture, that the sound was still big. But I didn't know there was people still in America who was really young people who were still excited about the sound. And I think it becomes fun when you can relate to people, and when you guys can really bond off of this music and this culture, and to see people dancing to the music, and to see people being like, there's stories that I love. Like this guy told me, every time I hear this particular song, I think of when I got pulled over in the summer of 2019 for playing the song too loud. Like these are I look to create moments for people, and so to have a community, that's what we want as humans. That's that's a natural thing to want community and to feel accepted. And I never really felt accepted as a child and still struggle with that. But my community, my New Jack swing, my Neo Jack swing community, it's very small, so we all know each other, and it's so positive. It is such. There's no competition. I think everybody knows. Like there is kind of a hierarchy, and I think we all know. I think we all respect that, and it's just love. It's so much love because it's all about the culture.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, Derric, it's been such a joy to get to connect with you and to learn more about your music and your story. I'm so excited for people to go check out your music and your videos. And like, I watched some of them earlier today, and like you put so much thought and intention and attention to detail and all the stuff you make. And so I'm really excited for people to get to know you better. I think they're going to be blown away.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I hope you and Barney have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll be in touch soon. And if I'm ever down in Tampa or Ybor or Sarasota, I'm coming to find you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today on Stage Dive, and I hope that you enjoyed it. New episodes drop each and every Wednesday. You can find highlights and clips of these conversations on TikTok and Instagram using the handle @StageDivePodcast. If you have any questions for us, want to be featured on the show, or have anything else to send, you can always email us at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. This is Jack Dawkins, and no matter how you're performing in the world today, I want you to know that you are loved. Take care.